Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. We have a small group, so let's make it an interactive session. I'm Tim van der Wiel. I'm one of the founders of Gospooky. We're a social technology agency based in Amsterdam and New York City. And I want to talk to you. My story started when I founded the company while I was still in high school 7 years ago. And I want to talk to you today about leveling up brand engagement through gamification and extended reality. So, as I said, let's make it a bit of an interactive session. We'll do a little story, and afterwards there will be room for questions. We have a very simple mission. It's keeping leading brands at the forefront of what's possible. We think it's a critical mission because the world is insanely fast moving, and you, as a brand, you really need to be in the place where your consumers are and provide them with the best possible customer journeys and innovation. We're working with a lot of amazing brands. Very lucky to work with some of the best, some platforms like TikTok, Snap, Meta, as well as brands like Nike, Amazon, and Dior. And as I told, we started very humbly at my parents' kitchen table in Amsterdam, and from there we expanded and recently opened our operations in New York City. We employ over 100 spookies, and I'm here today because we've seen a huge shift in content creation the past few years, really from interruptive content creation like we see in the traditional media like television, print, radio, really pushing your message in the hope that someone will see it. And this just doesn't work in the world we're living in today, and it especially doesn't work in immersive content creation and in extended reality. And I think if I say that nobody wants this, you need a really next level ad blocker in the metaverse. And we're moving into the space where it's not about pushing your message in the hope someone will see it. We're moving into the space in where the audience is really in the driver's seat, where it's all about engagement and all about creating an immersive experience that people really want to be in. And as we saw the past couple of years, is that gamification is becoming basically at the core of marketing and the core of modern marketing. It's about creating spaces and creating content that people actively engage with, that keep people entertained, that add value to their lives. And when we look a bit at the data, Forbes did yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Forbes did a little research on gamification and showed that 70% of the Forbes Global 2000, 70% of them had at least one gamified application, and that brands who use gamification in their marketing, that they had over a 250% increase in user activity. And if you look at some of the best gamified branded experiences out there and branded products, you of course have Duolingo, which uses gamification to make learning new languages actually fun. You have Nike Run Club, which empowers users to exercise more and run more through their app. And of course Starbucks, which have a massive, they are basically a tech company because of their Starbucks rewards program. They're loyal. They use gamification to really reward their customer base. But even in XR, if you look at a company like Sweat, they use gamification to and augmented reality to promote workouts and let people do their workouts. Crocs, they basically gamified their product using augmented reality. And a case that we did for ComplexCon, we used AR and gamification basically to drop exclusive merchandise, which we sold out in minutes. So we gamified the whole experience of dropping exclusive merchandise and adding commerce in there. And I think a big pitfall when we talk about gamification is something that we call lamification. It's about adding gamification when it's not needed. And just using game mechanics not to entertain users, but rather to retain users. And I think this is a huge pitfall in creating this kind of experiences. I think it's all about keeping users entertained and not busy. Why should you add extra elements or extra interactions when it's not needed? So we mostly focus on, that's also an invitation, it's mostly about actually adding value to people's lives instead of interrupting them. And I think this is a big, one of the most crucial parts when we're creating for augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. It's the opportunity that we all have. And if you think about it, if people who use immersive technology and use these kind of experiences, they take 4 to 5 considerate steps to be in that experience, in an immersive experience, in extended reality experience. And as a brand or as a creator, the one thing that you should do when people are in that experience where they really want to be in at that moment is to give them the best experience possible. And at Gospooky, we've been building over 100 experiences over the past few years, and we learned a thing or two about gamification in extended reality. I want to show you a couple of learnings that we had and what we call the guide for gamification in XR. And for us, that starts all about ensuring immersive engagement, really creating a place and really creating an experience that people truly want to be in. And you hear the word presence a lot when we talk about extended reality, the feeling of actually being in the experience and really blurring the virtual and the physical world. One case that we did, was together with the Red Cross, which is one of my personal favorites because it really taps into something that we call experiential learning. We made an experience that allowed people to learn about giving CPR, and by doing that, it really showed the possibilities of gamifying information and gamifying an experience that is normally could be very tough, a tough pill to swallow. You can read about it, you could watch a video on how to give CPR, but by actually being in an experience, you can really achieve something, and you can give people something, learn people something by just following that experience.
According to the International Liaison Committee on Resuscitation, fewer than 20% of people perform first aid, despite 70% of cardiac arrests happening in front of others. Snapchat, together with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, set out to change those numbers by closing the knowledge gap, using new ways of educating the public and raise awareness through spatial storytelling on how to administer CPR. Engaging all the senses while learning the basis of first aid procedure. Augmented reality is pushing education in a way that non-interactive 2D design systems and experiences wouldn't. Creating opportunities for educators to develop new innovative ways to connect and change the way we absorb information, as sometimes certain information might just save someone's life.
Another part which I think is crucial for good gamification is about interactivity. And interactivity can happen in multiple ways. It can happen in giving people ability to interact with objects, interact with characters, or even interact with products, gamifying products. And I believe that by adding good interactivity, you can really put the user in the driver's seat, really creating something that gives them the power to make an experience their own. We collaborated on a case together with Jeep in which we really did a deep dive, in which we really gamified their core product. So we created this experience where we used machine learning to basically recognize every individual Jeep model, turning Jeep and turning buying and gamifying the journey of buying a car.
Frictionless experience that happens on Snap allows you to kind of jump into and understand that vehicle that you see right before your eyes.
And that was quite a challenge. So to make one model that recognizes all these different Jeep models was a challenge, but we did it, and we never did it before. And I think another, and it's our last step, is really embedding narrative and exploration. And I think when we talk about narrative, really letting people follow a story, let them have impact on the story, and even more importantly, making that story or the experience that you're creating contextual to their environment. And this is something that we did as an internal project, where we created basically a treasure hunt game that used LiDAR to create an interactive story and interactive game. So what it did, people should scan their environment, and based on their environment, they would get hints, clues to proceed to a next level. So the little map that you saw that was based on your own environment was created using LiDAR. And for example, the cannon that you saw, it would always point towards a wall. So really making it contextual wherever you are, whether you're in your back garden or in your living room, it creates a narrative that's really contextual to where you are at that moment. So summing up, our guide to great gamification XR first is really about ensuring immersive engagement, giving the audience the feeling that they're actually in your experience, that they actually that give them the feeling that they're right there in that moment. Then it's about promoting interactivity, whether it's with characters, whether it's with objects, or even products, giving the user control of that experience and really giving them the tools to go through that story. And then lastly, it's about adding a narrative and exploration, a good narrative, a good storyline that in the best case possible is contextual to the user and is contextual to their environment. Those three, that's it for the Guide to Great Gamification in XR. I'm Tim van der Wiel, founder of Gospooky. Thank you so much for your time. Any questions? Yes.
Hi, when you with your Jeep project, what is it started by Jeep or was it started by Snap?
It was a project that we started together with their agency, Publicis. So they came to us and said, like, hey, we have this idea, but we don't know how to basically do it. So we created a custom machine learning pipeline that allows us basically to track every object there is within the Snap platform. Also runs out of Snap. But yeah, that was initiated through an idea that they had laying around, which they couldn't do technically. So that's where we came in.
Awesome. Is there any more questions from our audience?
What tool did you guys use to build that little treasure hunt at the end?
That was built using Lens Studio. So it was all within Snap using their LiDAR possibilities.
Any more questions for Tim?
Hey, Tim. How do you deal with a client who comes to you for lamification and starts steering them towards gamification? Do you have some examples maybe of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's mostly about we get a lot of briefs and we get a lot of objectives, and sometimes the objective, it's about being really clear with a client, hey, what do you want to achieve and what's the best and the fastest way to achieve that? And we do a lot of, we get a lot of briefs, and then we try to turn around the concept. So we're like, yeah, this is great, but this is how you can really make it better. Some clients want that, some don't want it, and then sometimes we just do it and then present them with results. More often we show them, hey, this is other work that we've done. These are the learnings, and you have to trust us on this one. And sometimes it's better to not even use gamification at all, especially, for example, with shopping and e-commerce. We've seen that by adding too much of an experience, it can also be better just to show a product, just to let them have a most quick and easy way in as possible, and let them a short journey.
Thank you, Tim, so much for being here and for such an informative presentation. And I just want to remind everybody that we do have a happy hour starting at 5:30 to 6:45. That's going to be in the Mission City Ballroom. But thank you for coming to this panel, and stick around because we have another great presentation wrapping up the end of day number 2. Thanks.